The Pac-12 Women's Conference Tournament begins on Wednesday. We will see what team will battle it out to get an automatic bid in the NCAA tournament. Hello, everyone. Welcome to SlasherU. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Feck. We are going to break down what to watch during this conference bracket. I mean, when you speak of Pac-12, you already get the chills. You get the excitement because usually it's always good basketball. As of late, it's been kind of a one-team pony in the last couple of years as Stanford has kind of ran through this conference. Not this season. Even though Stanford is still the number one seed, there is a lot to be excited about and really deserves something to break down here. And that's what we're going to do on this one. The first round is going to feature seeds 5 through 12. Number 5, UCLA taking on Arizona State. 8, Washington taking on 9, Oregon. 7, Washington State taking on 10, California. Number 6, USC taking on number 11, Oregon State. The top 4 seeds await in the second round. Number 1, Stanford, as mentioned. Number 2, Utah. Number 3, Colorado. And number 4, Arizona. I think all 4 of those teams at the bye have a good chance at winning this Pac-12 championship, Steve. But a couple really point out the most to me, Stanford being one of them. But who is a team that really sticks out to you that could be a true contender to win this conference tournament?
For me, it's Utah. I mean, they have, an experienced star, and they've got a terrific batch of freshmen. This is Utah's coming out party. Okay, they're not going to win a national title this year, but the Utah Jazz never won an NBA title. But I think the Lady Utes could very well win a national championship within the next 2 years. That's how impressed I am with the depth of their roster. I like the way they play the game. They're fundamentally sound. I think they made their case when they beat Stanford the other day. And I actually think Stanford might even lose to Arizona. I really like Arizona. So even though for me, Utah should be the 1 seed and Stanford the 2, I'm kind of glad because I think Stanford kind of got a tougher bracket to kind of go out there. So I'm picking Utah. It's not a knock on Stanford. Stanford's going to make the tournament. They're probably going to be a Sweet 16 team, but I think Utah, this is their year. And also forget about the demise of the Pac-12 people. I think these non-revenue sports, not that I want to call women's basketball a non-revenue sport, but everybody's talking about football and how that's the demise of the Pac-12. I think the women's Pac-12 tournament is going to help shine a light and get them a much needed television contract. I think it's going to be a big draw for them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I like Utah as well. I think Utah has a nice path to the final. However, I think the semifinals, even if it's 1 through 4, is going to be really tough. An Arizona versus Stanford game and a Utah versus Colorado game. I think Colorado could be the dark horse in the women's tourney here. We saw what they did just a few days ago against Stanford. They wound up losing in double overtime, but really until they got to double overtime, they were keeping up with Stanford with Cameron Brink, Kaylee Jones, things like that. But I am going to go with Stanford. I think Stanford, again, is the team to beat if Brink, if Jones are on. I've mentioned this in previews and recaps before. I don't think there's a team in the Pac-12 and possibly college basketball that can run with them. We saw how they played against South Carolina early in the season when they didn't have Haley Jones on. They really need both of those two to fire on all cylinders. It hasn't happened a lot this season, but now we're in the tournament time, conference tournament and March Madness. This is the time for them to shine. This is when the stars are born, and those two are stars. So count me in for Stanford to win the Pac-12 championship.
Well, again, I think it's going to boil down to how closely are they going to be calling the conference tournaments. I mean, usually it's always tougher. I have to admit, I didn't pay as much attention to the Pac-12 the last couple of years because Stanford was so dominant. But if there's one bad part of Cameron Brink's game is that she does get into foul trouble. So if she's in foul trouble and on the bench early, I think that's where Stanford runs into problems. Even if it's not Arizona, even if it's UCLA, I believe that UCLA would be, UCLA would play Arizona. So let's say UCLA, another young team, would beat Arizona. I think UCLA has shown that they can run with Stanford. I don't know if they can run for 4 quarters against them. But again, if you get them in foul trouble, then suddenly you have a different conversation. I think if there's going to be any major conference that's going to have upsets within the first round or two, I think it might be the Pac-12. That's why I was going Arizona over Stanford. But I really think that there are just about any team that has that bye into the second round. I think any of them could be upset because I think there just is a sneaky quality. You mentioned Colorado was another team. It's just a sneaky quality to the teams here in the Pac-12. So it's gonna be a must watch. I mean, don't just wait till the championship game. You want to watch the early rounds as well, because maybe it's the Pac-12 has teams that it's easy to fall in love with. Okay, I fell in love with Utah here, this season. They're in the Pac-12, but again, you mentioned Colorado, UCLA is fun, USC has had its moments, and certainly Stanford. So it's really easy. Arizona, I think, is really underrated. So I think watch this whole tournament, because you're going to find a team that you're going to want to root for, not only through the rest of the Pac-12 tournament, but also come NCAA and WNIT time.
Absolutely. Those semifinals, you're going to see those at the Pac-12 Network Friday, March 3rd. The championship game will be held on ESPN2 on Sunday, March 5th. This is going to be a great one. Be sure to tune in and find out who will win the Pac-12 championship and get themselves an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. Let us know in the comment section below. Who do you think will win the Pac-12 Women's Conference Tournament? Will it be Stanford? Will it be Utah? Will it be a different dark horse? As we've mentioned in here, it's going to be a fantastic tournament. Be sure to let us know all your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. Happy watching, because March Madness is here.